Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
5 years ago, the Power of We Symposium was created to provide a platform for kids from all sectors where they could have a safe and comfortable environment in which to share both their joys and concerns. The Power of We Symposium is proud to have served over 250 kids throughout Romania when we took our mission global back in May of 2023. Now, 2 teams of amazing volunteers from both the U.S. and Romania embarked on an 8-day Legacy of Hope tour, bringing encouragement and hope to not only the kids of Romania, but also the adults who support them, and also to over 100 kids here in the U.S. who contributed handwritten letters of hope to our Romania mission of 2023. Now, this year, we are proud to provide this opportunity yet again in October, and we are super excited to up our game. New venue, 750 kids this time, and we want to see you there. We're looking forward to meeting you in person at this year's event, which promises, as always, incredible speakers, amazing content, and of course, some of the greatest kids on the planet. So, mark your calendars for October 24th, and we'll see you here in Chicagoland for the Power of We Symposium 2024. This year's theme is Always Together, Never Alone. Tickets are available now on Eventbrite or at powerofwesymposium.com. Displaying my state of mind, but you walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight. Let's go. I'm excited. Are you? Hey, welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. Dr. Lauren with you. And I am, you want to talk about the distance between point A and point B? Today's guest is going to show you just how quickly you can get from here to there, just like that, right? Fearlessly, unapologetically, and then a bag of chips on top of that. I'm talking about Dr. KALPANA Sundar. That's just one version of how the name sounds, because every time I go listen and watch her on other shows, everybody says it their own way. We're going to talk about that today too. Which version she prefers, or just which one is the right one, right? You know, she's probably one of those, I don't mind. They really do deep down. So anyway, she's here. She's been here before. And if you remember, this is what I really am going to encourage. And I'll probably go and get the link to when she was here before and go and add it to the show notes of this show. So if you want to, and I highly encourage you to, go and look at that and then watch this. And you're going to go, what in the world? How did she do all of that like that so quickly? You're going to find out today. Because let's say this, the secret sauce, the formula, the combination to crack the safe, the code is available to you too. And she's going to show you how that is possible. So first of all, don't want to forget my manners. Good morning, beautiful people. You're looking great. I see you. I see you. I see you. But most importantly, I feel you. And I can feel you because that is the first sign of the promise. The one that guarantees us where two or more of us comes together. Spiritual magic is what flows in all directions. Can I get just one? Amen. There you go. I'll kick it off. So anyway, there it is. I just want to say real quick before we get our guest in here, I am still getting little emails and texts from my kids from Sunday down at Fairfield High School in Minot, Illinois. 66 wonderful young leaders walked across the stage that day and are now commencing on that next part of their lives. And what an honor. My first commencement speech in person. I did a virtual one during COVID. But this was very, very life-changing. Let's put it that way. So I want to tell you about today's guest. She's a professional speaker. She helps women in medicine navigate the challenging medical landscape with clarity within their career. Now, she says she's going to change that, and she's ready to just help all healers. And we're going to talk about that today. She does keynotes, workshops, breakout sessions, medical lifestyle coaching, and she's just done some of everything. Now, you might remember from previous episodes, or you might know her show, Gloves Off on the Trajectory Network, E360, that she is, Dr. KALPANA is actually a former board certified surgeon, specializing in a word I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but I guess it means ear, nose, and throat doctor. And she just, for whatever reason, and we're going to hear about that today, said, I've had enough. You know, she decided what was important to her in her journey, and she went with it. And boy, what, I don't even know how to say it, because it's not something, I don't want to undermine it. I don't want to undermine it because it's not something anyone can do, but anyone can choose to, and then we go from there. Took me decades, not so long for her. We're going to find out how she did it. Oh, is she wearing stilettos? I hear her coming down the hallway. Here she comes. Good morning, she who will remain nameless. I'm kidding. How do we say it?
It's Dr. KALPANA Sundar.
KALPANA.
Yes.
KALPANA Sundar. I always want to say KALPANA. It's the stressing on which syllable that really changes more than anything, I think.
Right. Well, it's funny because, see, this is the new me. I used to actually introduce myself as KALPANA Sundar. And that's because when I grew up in New York City and I was a young girl, nobody could say my name properly. So when I told them Kalpana, they messed it up. And then I found a version that I was okay with, and that was KALPANA. So the interesting thing is when I moved to California 6 months ago, I decided to be very intentional about how I told people my name. And for the first few months, I introduced myself again as Kalpana. But now now apparently I can say my own name correctly. And now, because I feel like there's a real transition of who I was before I came to California and after. So that is sort of marked by sort of an insistence of people saying my name correctly. And when you ask them for that, it's funny how much people really care about how to say your name correctly.
It's a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why? Because it just never feels right when people go, oh, it's okay. Because it's your name. Plus, this whole thing I believe in as far as words that deceive, what comes out of our mouth, and being intentional. Mm-hmm. And the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. So that tells me you should be trying to hit the name right on the head, Lauren. And even if the person goes, oh, no, I want to know it as it is. So interesting that you picked up on that today and had something this is all a part of it. Let's get into it, because you have gone around the spiritual world a couple times. Seriously. Let's just say you've ridden almost all of the rides in the amusement park since we've last seen you. So why don't we do this? Just so you get to set the metronome, mm-hmm. the tempo of this conversation. I'm going to dip out for 60 seconds and let you just pour from the cup that you're holding today. And then I'll come back and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Great. All you, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. And I was saying to Dr. Lauren that I really feel like an entirely different person from when I was on his show just almost 6 months ago. At that time, I lived in Florida. I was on the way to Barcelona. And, again, in those moments, I've been guided by intuition over and over again. And the intuition keeps getting stronger as time goes on. I would say that in the past, I have not listened to that intuition or acted upon it so quickly. And what's changed in the last 6 months, that I rely very much on my intuition, much less on my logic, although that has to come into play. And that led to a massive transformation of my life. So I went to Barcelona, Spain. I spoke at a women's conference. I came back, and within 2 weeks, I moved to California, because I knew that something was here for me. I didn't really know what it was, but I knew my life was about to change. So flash forward, I went through a lot of different experiences while I've been here in California, which we'll get into later in the show. But the big thing is that I want to say, undergone several ego deaths while I've been here. I have kind of removed myself from attachments that were once so important to me, uncovered so much more of who I really am. And with that uncovering has led to a clear purpose and a mission of what I'm here to do.
Nicely put. I'm going to say this. Here's where I'd like to start, Doctor. It's because I remember when you were making these choices, because you and I met at the RPXP experience. Mm-hmm. That was about a month or so before you moved, not that far from it. And I know how you would voice it and what you were hoping for with this change. But even I had none of us had any idea. But what I want to go to first is, what was it? What do you point to, or what can you put your finger on, as far as what really prompted you to make such a huge choice about just uprooting, changing everything, gloves off, ... and actually following through on it? How come you didn't talk yourself out of it? You know what I mean? How did you get there and not think you were crazy? Because people are like, you're going where? You're doing what? Girl, are you crazy? And we're not even talking about the fact that you're saying, I don't want to be a surgeon anymore. You'd already put that out there. So I guess after that, maybe everything else was easier. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, the leaving surgery happened a couple of years ago. It's almost been 4 years now, so it's been a while. And then came all the other things after that, because I almost had to release myself from that very egoic attachment to start uncovering who I was. And I'm going to say I did really love what I did, but there was a point where things shifted and it wasn't really in alignment with my truth of how I believed things should be. The medical system is really designed to keep us sick. At the end of the day, I don't believe in that. So I went into medicine to help people be healthy. But over the years, I realized that I wasn't able to do that. So the insurance companies were, they pay you and based everything on how many different problems you find, how many medications you put them on. And I was like, I mean, in the beginning, I don't think I was awake enough to realize that I didn't like this. So I just did what I was supposed to do, follow the standard of care. But there's an art and a science to medicine. And what that means is that there's some things I knew intuitively that maybe weren't exactly in alignment with the standard of care that are guidelines that are set out. And often these studies are paid for by big pharma. So anyway, long story short, it just wasn't in alignment for me. So I had to leave. I think one decision leads to the next, allows to an inner knowing. And I would say that's how things started to unfold. You don't know all the steps. You just know the next one right step. From there, you grind into it, you settle in, and then the next step eventually comes.
Very true. Very true. The word of the day so far, because it could change at any moment, is for me, listening to you, alignment. Mm-hmm. Huge. Because think about it. Even in our vehicles, remember in the old days, your car was out of alignment, it started shaking. The steering wheel, the car would pull, take your hands off. That's how you would check it. Take your hands off the steering wheel. In other words, relinquish control. In other words, surrender just for a moment. And you'd see if you were in alignment, or are you moving and drifting out of your lane? And so let's go there, alignment, because see, what are some words in your world that are synonymous with alignment? I'm curious, because a lot of people, they throw that word around very loosely, and things that are out of alignment come and go. They got keys to every room. So because they don't take their hands off to check to see if it really is. So what are some words that are synonymous for you, Dr. Kalpana, as far as alignment, so that you stay in alignment?
I would say for me, it's about values, what I believe to be important. And when you start from that place, you know what's in alignment and what isn't. I start with that. What are the things that are in alignment with my values? And then in with my joy. I think if I have those two things correctly, it's like the ship is steering much more in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because if I don't like something, then it's probably not in alignment, So I've gotten away from doing things because of the money, because of this, because of that. I just sink into it and say, what feels right? And that's how I make all my decisions. I don't have to know the logical reason. It often presents itself later, but I don't need it to make the decision, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But here's one. I want you to take a look at this one. How do you feel about there being, because duplicity is such a huge part of our journey. Just like some people can't say, they don't know when to say no. There's also a factor where you don't know how to say yes, when to say no, how to say yes. Oops, where's my phone? Oops, sorry. Turn it off. Rookie mistake. And so what I want to ask is this. Do you think it's possible to have it both ways, for it to work in both directions? In other words, I am not in alignment with something outside of myself. Let's say a group or a tribe. I'm not in alignment with what they're doing, as opposed to this thing trying to come into what my work, where I'm at, into my sacred space, is not in alignment with me. It's not in alignment with what I am. And then there's also where I step inside some place and my intuition kicks in. It's, to me, I think it's just like when you're in a place you've never visited and you're trying to get back to your hotel room or something, and you see a shortcut. Oh, I know. Look, there's this hotel. I can see the sign, but I could cut through here. Ooh, oh no, something don't feel right about that. I'm just walk the sidewalk. I'm in alignment, with my intuition. And you said intuition has been coming up a lot. So let's talk about that. They're interconnected, yes?
Yes, I would agree.
Right. So doesn't it all boil down to trusting yourself and then trusting what you are in co-creation with, co-agreement with? Unless you think you're doing all this on your own, which I don't think you do because you said awakened. So how do you feel about that? Because I'm trying to crack the code on where you found your grit. I mean, even your book, and here's the book, everybody. We're going to give you the link to where you can find this, Beauty Unbound, because you say it right there, breaking free, which breaking free means sometimes it's not like when I picture breaking free. If someone's got a grip on me and I want to break free, it's not like let go of me. I said let go, break free, let go. I have to sometimes, push a little to get free of something that doesn't serve me. And then after that, living apologetically. Why would you do that? What about us? You see what I mean? Not apologizing for your decision, just living behind it, standing behind it. So I've said all I need to say now. Now, this is what you do. You had to do it to become an authority, to be able to help people, and you've upped your game, not just women, all healers. So talk about, if you hadn't done or made the hard choices, would you be able to help people find their way to those hard choices?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a packed one.
Yeah, because I want to put you on the screen and step out for a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a loaded question. So I'm just going to start with the first part of what he was asking about, the alignment. I believe that one big thing is, as human beings, we have to learn to let go of what doesn't serve us. I feel like that may be the easiest first place to start. So what I started doing very carefully in my life was seeing what was right for me, what wasn't right for me. Then I started to pick and choose, because I think our choices really lead to the next step. As I started to pick and choose and weed out things that weren't in alignment, new things would appear that were way more in alignment. And with that, I knew that if I needed to let that go, I would. So then there was this act of sort of surrendering to all that. The old me used to hang on to everything because something I had, I'm going to hold on to it. Now I've just been comfortable with letting anything go. If it's meant to be let go, I know it internally, and I can tell I'm out of alignment with it, and I just let it go. So that's part one. And part two was, if I didn't make these hard choices, would I be able to help and serve the people that I'm here to serve? Definitely not. The reason being, if you don't make the hard choices, you don't really look inward to really uncover those deep layers of yourself that are, oh God, sometimes really, really painful to uncover. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. I've spent many a days just sobbing, just uncovering something. And yet every time I emerged from that, I was stronger, more clear. So I would say it was definitely worth it.
Definitely. And what a great segue. You must have been reading my mind, because I wrote down trust your choices. And I wanted to take you back to that day. I think it was like the first week you were in California, you were waiting on your furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And then the furniture came and it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And you found yourself, you just said, I've had to cry, da, 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 da. And what I love about what you're about to share is this: whether you're crying because you can't stop laughing, or you're crying like you're going to describe out of frustration, or whatever it is, I believe that our tears should be celebrated, because crying just means that there's something, you're fighting for something that means something to you. A lot of people have to cut themselves or burn themselves in order to try to feel. So it's a good thing. So talk about trusting your choices. What was it like in that moment that you're going to describe to us? Tell them about that, the thing with the furniture.
So I had moved to California and I was staying with a friend for a couple of days, but I'm this person that likes my own space. So I wanted to get settled into my apartment. My furniture took almost 2 weeks to show up. And this was after they kept charging me more and more and more. Now, it seems like a big deal because it was, because I had some savings and I didn't really know what I was going to do for work. All my work was in Florida. All of that had dwindled away, but I just knew I was supposed to be here. Everybody around me thinks I'm a nutcase, leaving, income that I had for something I don't even know what's there.
Right.
And they think I'm crazy. Why would I be moving to California where everybody's moving to Florida? And, it was like everybody thinks I'm crazy. Now I start to think I'm crazy because I'm like, what am I
Mm.
doing? Is this a sign that I'm not supposed to be here? Blah, 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 blah. Well, my furniture came, thank goodness, because I think I spent the next day or two just literally crying in bed. And I am not the person who cries easily. So just even talking about this is weird for me. I used
Yeah.
to have to drink a little wine, watch some sappy movie to get myself to cry. Oh God, now those tears, they just come when they want to. And
Really?
I've really embraced it because it's a purging of sorts. It's a purging and a death of some version of the old me that doesn't serve me anymore. And I finally understand that because I've gone through a couple of bouts of this. But
Mhm.
every time I come out of it as a clear, better version of me. So now when it comes, I'm like, well, whatever. We're just going to spend the day like this if we can, or spend the evening, whatever. It's okay.
What about this part though? Like you were remembered to a version of you when you broke down with the guy outside and the furniture guy, and you didn't know what you're going to do. We make all these choices. We lay it all out. We do our best, following the 4 agreements. I'm going to pack up this and do that and set that up. But then there's those things you can't see coming. And I just wondered, when you were considering questioning yourself, how did you block that? Gloves off. That did you just like say, "Come here, and bitch slap them"? What did you do? How did you get back up, go open that door, face that delivery guy, and make it through the day? What was the thing?
It's funny. It's funny you remember that story because I kind of put it out of my mind.
I
So
do remember it.
when they showed up and told me it was going to be extra, there was like a situation where part of it needed to go to storage and that was going to be extra. And in that moment, I said, you know what? I'm not paying anymore. I felt like I was being literally just taken advantage of. And I was so angry that I wanted to come at that guy and just deliver some harsh words and this and that. Then I just looked at him and realized he's not the enemy.
Right.
Is just a guy doing his job, what he's supposed to do. And he looked at me and he could see the frustration in my eyes. And he saw I was about to break down. And I said, excuse me. I walked away. I went into my apartment and just burst into tears and I had no furniture. So I had like some little like chair and I'm sitting there curled up in the chair crying. 15 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. And you know what I loved about him was he gave me a few minutes. And he goes, ma'am, what do you want us to do? So I wiped my tears and I said, you know what? I said, we're not going to the storage unit, whatever fits in here, bring it in. I don't care. And, so he started to do that. And then he looks at me with the kindest look in his eyes. He goes, I just want you to know these delivery companies, they take advantage of people and I hate it. And I want to go on my own one day. So I don't do this to people. And in that moment, I said, I almost fought with this guy, but he's not the enemy. And that was where really our whole gloves off thing came from because I was about to go at him. And instead, I realized he's not the enemy. Let's fight the real enemy, who are the big corporate giants, the one who are
Yes.
always making money off of us, cheating us and just doing these awful things, and brings me, I told him I wanted to have him as a guest on my show. And he's, I hope he's gone out on his own. I'm going to actually text him after this.
And follow up. Because
Yep.
you know what? That situation, if you remember, is how we found your tagline. Keeping the fight where it belongs.
Yep.
Keeping the fight where it belongs, which was with the corporate side, not this guy who's fighting to feed his family.
Exactly. Just doing what he has to do. And then that goes on so many other levels. I feel like there's so much with men and women fighting against each other.
Oh,
and
sorry.
we just, there should be, different cultures clashing.
Yeah.
And I want to be around to see a world where we understand each other and give each other that grace, whether it's man against woman, this type of lifestyle versus that type of lifestyle, culture versus culture. It doesn't need to be that way. I want to come from an inclusive place where there's exclusivity in being inclusive.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Robert Brooker. He's like, today's topic reminds him of the song I Want to Break Free from Queen. And he also said, the sign. I saw the sign. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So let's go here. Journey from Fear to Freedom. I saw that. I think it was on your website. And it's so interesting to me how you lay these words out before you walked past the site. You know what I mean? In a way, like, let's say From Fear to Freedom was a landmark and we drove there and got, oh, look, like Ruby Falls or something, that you actually had this out. It's almost like you sent the words ahead of the experience because you've been living it, but not to the full extent that you have since we saw you last even. But isn't that life? Where every time if we grow. So let me ask you this. How do you feel? They say, they're called growing pains for a reason. Do you still believe that? Do you support that theory? As far as like in the chair, curled up did that grow you into who we're looking at? Just that thing on that day in the chair with this guy. How did it grow you into the woman we see?
It taught me to trust myself, because even though I wanted to kind of leave at that moment, like, okay, California, I'm not supposed to be here. This is a sign I'm not supposed to be here. But I was like, maybe it's just a little setback, let's just see what happens. Well, more things happened, over the last 6 months, little by little, it was like difficult for me to find like work I really enjoyed. And I was not going to do something I didn't enjoy, because then I'd be right back where I started again.
Why would you have left? Right.
Right. Why would I have left? I would come back here and recreate the same thing that I just left. I'm like, I can't do it. So I was like, well, here's the plan. I was like, universe, 6 months. I mean, because I want to just be in the spiritual realm, but unfortunately, I'm here in the 3D, and I need a place to live.
I gotta eat.
I got a dog to feed. I got things to do. And I was like, so we're giving it 6 months, and if it doesn't work, I'm going back to Florida. I mean, so
you made that an option.
I made that an option. If that's what I'm supposed, because I don't know, like maybe I'm not supposed to be here. You need to show me, because I'm not sure. Because a lot of painful things happened while I was here. So, but I understand now in retrospect that they were for my growth and for me to come to this clearer alignment. I was in alignment. I was in generally the right area, but now it's like, laser focused, clear. And so anyway, on month 4, it was like opportunities galore started showing up. And I was like, now I can show my discernment. I like this. And that one, we're going to wait and see. This one, like that. So I started to make these decisions about what was right for me. And I was so busy because I had to evaluate all these different opportunities and see which ones were right for me, which ones weren't. I didn't even know how they all fit together until just recently.
That's a big piece. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful part. I was like, with my new direction. Well, I don't want to say direction. It's more of a tweak on an already existing direction.
Correct.
I just was afraid to own a part of myself, which is really my spirituality, and put it in there. So when I used the word healer, I recognized that was my version of coming out.
So you didn't mean necessarily just healers in the sense of a doctor, a nurse, practice, anybody like that. You mean
yes,
woo people too.
Yes,
healers. Right.
Because what I recognize is, like me, many of us are kind of stuck and lost in this maze of medicine and the corporate structures, and we're not able to heal in the way that we want to. So for me, it's like all of it. Like, I want to show people how to live their best lives, like physically, be the best version of themselves, and feel whole. And that comes from more of a spiritual sense. And I want them to be emotionally well and well balanced, because I feel like when you're balanced in all those aspects of your life, only then can you live your very best life. And if you are living your best life, you can show people how to do it. If I want to talk about abundance, I better have it, Or how the heck can I show people how to get it?
Oh, that's a good one.
So that's what I recognize. A lot of people who talk about abundance don't really have it.
Right. And not just talk it, they're peddling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come
So,
and get some of this, and it's not even there.
right. So you have to have it to show people how to do it. So when I look at people, I'm like, well, what level of abundance do you have? Is it in alignment with the level of abundance that I want to have?
And are you doing the right things with it if you do have it? Because it's a two-parter.
Yeah, some of the opportunities just weren't in alignment with me. So I knew that. Sometimes I couldn't explain why, but my gut and my intuition is very strong. So I just knew that I was here to do something a little more. I had to tweak my thing. First, it was about women, and I would say the majority of them are. But I am not opposed to. I was asked once, "Do I hate men?" I've been asked this a lot of times, actually. Do I hate men? Do I hate men? Why
You
do
have
I?
two sons.
I know. and honestly, some of my best friends are men. I mean, I do not hate men, but I really wanted to stand for women because I feel that we don't have sometimes the resources that we need to move forward in the world. So that was a lot of it. But I recognize that men also face the same challenges. So depending on the type of man, they can also face the same challenges. So now I've broadened it to healer, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a physician's assistant, whether you're an ultrasound tech, whether anybody who's in that field, maybe you're peripherally associated with medicine, but you want to do something healing. I want to provide a space for all of those people to, come forward into the light and to honor themselves, their authenticity, who they are.
Not the light. Yes. Wow. I was, for some reason, I was like, I bet you there's people that knew you 5 years ago that would hear this dialogue coming out of your mouth and go, what in the world? Is that the same woman? Right.
Yeah.
I want to say this. Excuse me. I had a download when you were talking about the chair incident.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw what that was that day was the equivalent of when we're little and they say, get against the wall, and they're checking how we're growing. They mark the doorway or whatever, scratch the little line, and then you come back next time and you see how you've grown from there to here. These moments, that wasn't a breakdown, that was a growth marker. That was where they marked where you were. So now you can look back and say, woo, look at the distance between that and this. And that's the beautiful thing about it. That's why I don't believe in mistakes. I think that's just the universe keeping our shit interesting. You've heard me say that before, Let's talk about the book for a minute.
Okay.
And then, so I don't forget, I'm circling it. Then I want to go to, you guys aren't going to believe this, but would you have ever thought that calcium or the lack of or anything dealing with calcium, I think teeth and bones, could have you as close to 30 minutes from death? We're going to talk about that because that's what happened to you. Tell us what inspired this piece of work. And it is a piece of work, Beauty Unbound. It really is. Talk about the book and how it played a part into getting you to the chair you're in right now.
Well, I would say it's a piece of work because I'm a piece of work.
Oh, okay. You really are. In a good way. We all are. Go ahead.
Some good ways, some bad ways. Basically, after that near-death experience, so I think that's the perfect place to start. It was the first few months out of my residency. I had started my practice, found a lump on my throat, on my neck, and I knew it was bad. And so I got the biopsy done. It comes back as cancer.
What?
Yeah, it was like here's the funny thing is a lot of times not pathologists, I meant, they hedge. They don't say cancer. They say blah, 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 blah. They say a lot of blah, blahs till they get to possibly could be cancer. Well, my biopsy result said papillary thyroid carcinoma. And I was like, well, there's no messing with that one. So I immediately called a colleague who I, referred my more difficult cases to. And I said, well, I got a patient to refer to you. And he's like, oh, great. Tell me about the patient. I go, it's me. And he says, what? So I tell him the story. He's like, we're going to get you right in. got my surgery scheduled. And after the surgery, there were a couple of significant aspects. There was tumor on the nerve of my vocal cord. So he had to actually strip it with a scalpel on that tiny little nerve that controls the voice box. So in that moment, there was a point that maybe I couldn't speak, which is why the whole speaking thing is very, very important to me. I was gifted a second chance of having my voice, and there was cancer on it, and I need to speak.
Mm.
So, and then my calcium dropped. So my calcium glands are right behind the thyroid gland. They're called the parathyroid glands. They're teeny weeny little things, and they can just get stunned if you even touch them. So my calcium was borderline, and I'm arguing with him. I'm like, listen, I am a surgeon. I know how to look and see if my calcium is down. I'm going to get labs first thing in the morning. I just want to go home. I don't want to be in a hospital, blah, blah, blah. I go home, my calcium drops drastically overnight. I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is bad. I feel like this tingling around my mouth. And there's a sign called Shavastek sign. You just tap your face, and if your calcium is low, your face twitches. So I did it. My face twitched, and I was like, oops. So I tell my husband at the time, I said, we got to go to the hospital. And he's like, well, we're going to go get the blood work. I'm like, no, we're going to the emergency room. So we're racing to the hospital, and I call in my calcium gluconate on the way. And, luckily I get there, the nurse puts the IV in, I'm fine. But I buried that scenario for almost 10 years. And what happened was I started waking up in the middle of the night, having these panic attacks, like somebody had their hand on my throat. And I was like, what is going on? I started to see a therapist, and hence was my awakening. It was after that I started to realize that it just wasn't really living my truth. I was living a life that somebody told me to live, that I was supposed to be happy in, but wasn't. And it started the uncovering of all of that. And that's what led to me writing the book.
Wow. And you know what's so interesting is that your specialty in medicine was ear, nose, and throat. And that this thing shows up right in your area of expertise, and then leads to pushing you out of that work altogether.
I never thought of it that way. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Right?
I think I need to process that. I never put that together.
I just saw it all being moved into place there, like the Iron Man. You know how they have that, you can see stuff clear, and they're like moving it in the air. It looked like that just now. Yeah, that's how it came in. I wanna, and now it moved you out of that. Let's go here, because I marked this in your book. Interestingly enough, I had marked the quote that I highlighted the time you were here before, and I went back to say, am I supposed to read this same quote? Because it made me just open. I said, am I cheating? Am I just being lazy this morning? And then came the arrow that pointed to this. Now I see why, because of what just came out. And you said here, we often hear the true calling of the soul as children. Suppressing that calling is learned behavior. Could that golden nugget right there have something to do with how you got pushed from what you thought, pushed from what you were paid for into what you were literally made for? Big difference.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, because think about it. What did you think of? What was suppressed from when you were a child? Are you nearing, or are you doing that thing today?
Yes.
And when you put that in the book, did you really have the full idea of what that meant, or were you just being obedient and following a lead?
I think I knew sort of. I just didn't know it was quite so big. I feel so in alignment with where I'm going, and I feel like there's so much more that's coming. But I don't know what that is, and I'm okay to find out, because one thing, it took me a while to learn to trust myself, and then I eventually started to trust myself, but I didn't trust the universe or the bigger power. I was like, why are you doing all these terrible things to me? And now I see it differently, that I actually trust both.
What did you refer to it as? I'm sorry. Back before, has it always been the same entity for you, or is it transforming into something bigger than just the name
I think it's transforming into something a lot bigger. I think I used to say the universe because they don't like secular religion so much. I feel like it's very confining and very
controlling, sure.
controlling, and I don't believe in that control.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to. So religion, although I was raised Hindu, like, I just couldn't identify with a specific religion. So now I say I'm spiritual, and I was talking about it with the universe, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like I have a bigger connection now with the source. I don't. One thing I was thinking about this morning is I remember how alone I felt moving to California, leaving all my people, my comfort behind.
Yeah.
Coming here, I had some real difficult awakenings with some people that I thought were in alignment with me, and they weren't. And they just did some things to me that I didn't like, and I couldn't I couldn't do it. I was like, I can't allow that to happen to me because that's self-abandoning, and I can't do it. So in that moment, I just thought, I don't know, I can't do this, but I knew that my soul is calling for something more. So when you asked me about, am I living what I wrote about in that book, I knew I needed to be in front of more people, bigger stages, camera more. All of those things are happening. Now, recently, I just feel like it's something more. I'm going to Europe in July, and I just feel like that's going to open up some more doors. I just know what I'm supposed to do, and I just follow the steps and in complete surrender now. I don't even have this outcome of what I think should happen, but I'm like, well, whatever it is, it'll be for my best and highest good. So I'm not worried about it.
And you know what? I had another download while you were talking. It happened in that section I wrote down when you said you had some things happen to you once you moved out there that didn't feel so good, and people and this, that, and the other. And again, the Iron Man thing, they started moving this stuff over. And I've never thought of it like this. When we hear, go to those places where you're celebrated and not tolerated, I always think about that refers to the people around me. But with you, they just said what she did was she found herself in a place she needed to learn how to celebrate herself and not tolerate herself, which leads to gloves off. You know what I mean? I've always thought when I hear the name of your show, Gloves Off, it stands for you're saying it to everything outside of yourself. But after today, I'm beginning to think it was connected to you first. That it had a lot to do. You see what I mean? Because when you think about it, Doctor, it sounds like to me that you're in a spot now where you've learned how to celebrate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And if somebody doesn't celebrate me, it's okay. I have no ill will against them, or because I want to be in a place where we're all celebrating each other, not just what I put up on a pedestal. It's not about that. It's about celebrating each other for what we bring. And if somebody can't celebrate me, then that is not in alignment. So, and I've learned to celebrate myself. And with that has come this, I was talking about loneliness. I felt this massive, severe loneliness when I got here. Again, I'm not in a relationship. It's just me and my dog. My kids are far, like my father's far. Everybody's kind of feels far away. But I found that when I got more deep within me and connected more to source, I think it's even past the universe. It's a connection to my source, my higher self. I don't really feel that loneliness anymore because I don't know. I just feel whole.
Because you're not settling.
Because I'm not settling. And sometimes that just means choosing yourself and being alone momentarily because new people have come that celebrate me and I celebrate them. So the beauty is I had to make the space or they couldn't arrive.
So it feels to me, it sounds to me rather, well, no, it feels to me, I said it correctly, that when we settle for less, our soul becomes unsettled.
Yes.
Because it is not designed for less. It is designed for abundance, for increase, for growth, for the ing to be on everything, meaning we're inside of a process. Mm-hmm. The awakening, growing, stretching. So how does it feel now when you manifest and you look down, you go outside and you stand on the porch of your life and you look down that road? What's the view today?
Expansive.
Explain that.
So I would say that if I looked at that vista before, it would have been a very narrow path. Now I see this massive, expansive place where anything could happen. So it's really my choice and my discernment that leads me in one direction or another. So I would say, instead of what I used to think was that there's one path or maybe two, I just see like this maze of opportunities. And I think based on which route I take, I'll wind up in a different place. But most of them I feel are for my highest good. I think I've already eliminated those little dark paths that I would have gone on. It's just now it's a question of how high am I willing to go? We almost limit ourselves more often. We limit ourselves. That's the bottom line. And if you remove your own limit, it's amazing what shows up. So now I just feel like I've removed all the limits. I'm like, take me to the, because I bravely said, take me to the highest place I could go. I'm not, I trust, I'm not afraid. If it means leaving everybody behind, I've already like done that a couple of times. So whatever, the ones that are there are supposed to be there will stay. I'm not afraid.
You didn't, when you were in Florida, standing on the porch looking over to California, I know now you didn't look for the beach. You were looking at the horizon because it lives beyond the beach. That's what you just described when you said sources beyond the universe. That's beautiful. That's big stuff. You guys, listen, you look along the bottom of the screen there and you'll see ticker taking, taping, the website for Dr. KALPANA SUNDAR, and also LinkedIn. I'm going to drop both of those links inside of the comment section immediately at the close of today's broadcast. Before we get out of here, we have about 5 minutes left. I want to ask you about the piece that you kind of threw in there real quick. We sped through that intersection when you said, I think it's important. You said all the things that are important to you, your father, your boys, your close circle of friends that you've known for a long time. Everything seems far away. And how do you talk about this? Because I know you know, but I don't know if you've spoken it out loud. Talk about how that distance has fed your gratitude, because it seems sometimes when things seem far from us, we don't take them as much for granted as when we can see them every day and they're right there within reach. But when they're not so much, we do better with them. Has that been the case? Have you seen like the phone calls increase or the depth of the conversations, or you know what I mean? How has that affected how you get up and face everything you're facing out there?
Well, that's so true that you mentioned that. The depth of the relationships have changed for the better. So the more authentic that I am with myself, I'm more appreciated, and it's almost like we give people permission to be more authentic when we do that. So it's not a gift we only give ourselves, we give it to them as well. So I have, a very good friend of mine. We went to high school together. She's on the East Coast, and we still manage to communicate every single day, just about. And the relationship has actually deepened since I've been here, which is interesting. I've known her 40 something years, but the connection has deepened. And then even with my sons, the connection has deepened, because when they come out,
I saw your Mother's Day show with your son. I think he's your oldest. Was that the oldest?
My oldest, yeah. So he's come here to visit me a couple of times, and he's been here for a couple of weeks at a time. And then my younger one was just here for about a week. But the level of connection, it's not about the time, it's the quality. And it's been amazing, that transformation for me.
Wow, that's awesome. What a joy report that is. Now, tell everybody about the show, Gloves Off, where and when, and what they can expect when they show up to dip their fingers in to see if they like it, and I know they will. And also, what it takes to be a guest on your show.
Oh, perfect. Well, Gloves Off is, obviously, you heard the backstory. As Dr. Lauren and I came up with that, and it was really more him. He put things together like he always does in the best way.
So she's being modest as always. You are.
But I loved it because, it represented me taking my surgical gloves off, and I do Krav Maga, and now I'm doing Muay Thai. So again, there's that reference to it. So it's really about people showing up in the world authentically, being courageous to be their true selves, and really finding this place of joy and understanding amongst different people's way they live their lives, different cultures amongst, men and women, all of that. So that's all delicately weaved into each story. And if you'd like to be a guest, you can look on my website. There's a place to book a call so we can do an introductory call, see if it's a good fit, and we go from there. But typically, I like to really get very deep into what are these life-changing things that have occurred in people's lives that led them in a different direction, just kind of like my life led me.
Right. Same with me. Same with me. Perfect. Again, everybody, just a reminder, here's the book, Beauty Unbound, Breaking Free and Living Unapologetically. That is not just a clever twist of phrase. That is an actual avenue of joy in everything that truly matters. All the things you cannot touch, you can only feel. And I want to say this, it is rare but becoming more and more commonplace, finding people who are willing to walk away from that career that pays them so that they can get all the things they thought they wanted. But I've never seen a U-Haul attached to the back of a hearse. Those are the things you cannot take with you. Don't live your life just collecting things and only find out in the last moment, the 11th hour, that you didn't bring anything with you that you could feel. That's what we're talking about here today. And that's what you'll find inside this book and inside of everything Dr. KALPANA Sundar. I just want to thank you. Wow. You just flew from one spot to the next since we saw you last. I can't wait to bring you back to see where you have elevated to in the meantime. So any last words before we get out of here? Here's your Jerry Springer moment.
Oh, I think the big thing is that there's been so much joy in getting to know you and being on this show again. I actually am going to go back and watch the last interview 6 months ago because I know it's a big change, but I think it's going to be very obvious after this. So.
It's a huge change. And just hats off. You're killing it on your show. Can't wait to see. I think that there's retreats and workshops and events and everything coming for you. So you guys do yourself a favor. Go in and hit the notifications button, ring the bell, whatever you need to do, so that you can be reminded of all things Dr. KALPANA. So thank you so much. You guys get out of here, and I'll see you, God willing, tomorrow morning. Kachka Motosivic. I always have to sound like I'm from the place or try to say that name. Wait till you meet this woman. She was scheduled a few weeks back and had a medical emergency. She's back on her feet, and she's ready to come and pour into us tomorrow morning on Bathrobe Moments. Now, get out, find a little piece of your highest self. Just get an E and an R. Take strong to stronger, bright to brighter, kind to kinder, nice to nicer. And then when you wake up tomorrow morning, those two letters have gone to the front to wait for you to start your day. Now you're going to be revived, renewed, remembered to your original self. Get out of here. And as always, I tell you, I love you. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Dr. KALPANA.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine.